All right, so we are in day 2 of our Frindle book. And so, just as we did on yesterday, I'm going to read the first chapter, which is going to be chapter 3. We're going to go over the first 2 questions, and then you're going to be responsible for answering the remainder of the questions after you have read chapter 4. So, chapter 3 is entitled The Question. The first day of school was always a get acquainted day. Books were passed out and there was a lot of chatter. Everyone asked, "What did you do over the summer?" Periods 1 through 6 went by smoothly for Nick. But when it came to period 7, Mrs. Granger's class was all business. The first thing they did was take a vocabulary pretest to see how many of the 35 words for the week the kids already knew. Tremble, circular, orchestra. The list went on and on. Nick knew most of them. Then there was a handout about class procedures. After that, there was a review paper about cursive writing, and then there was a sample sheet showing how the heading should look on every assignment. No let up for 37 minutes straight. Nick was an expert at asking the delaying question, also known as the teacher stopper or the guaranteed time waster. At 3 minutes before the bell, in that split second between the end of today's class and the announcement of tomorrow's homework, Nick could launch a question guaranteed to sidetrack the teacher long enough to delay or even wipe out the homework assignment. The timing was important. But asking the right question, that was the hard part. Questions about stuff in the news, questions about college the teachers went to, questions about the teacher's favorite book or sport or hobby. Nick knew all the tricks, and he had been very successful in the past. Here he was in 5th grade, near the end of his very first language arts class with Mrs. Granger, and Nick could feel a homework assignment coming the way a farmer can feel the rainstorm. Mrs. Granger paused to catch her breath, and Nick's hand shot up. She glanced down at her seating chart and then up to him. Her sharp gray eyes were not even turned up to half power. "Yes, Nicholas?" "Mrs. Granger, you have so many dictionaries in this room, and that huge one especially. Where did all of those words come from? Did they just get copied from other dictionaries? It sure is a huge book." It was a thought grenade. Kerpow! Several kids smiled and a few peeked at the clock. Nick was famous for this, and the whole class knew what he was doing. Unfortunately, so did Mrs. Granger. She hesitated for a moment and gave Nick a smile that was just a little too sweet to be real. Her eyes were the color of thundercloud. "Why, that is a very interesting question, Nicholas. I could talk about that for hours, I bet." She glanced around the room. "Do the rest of you want to know too?" Everyone nodded yes. "Very well then, Nicholas. You will do some research on that subject and give a little oral report to the class. If you find out the answer for yourself, it will mean so much more than if I told you. Please have your report ready for our next class." Mrs. Granger smiled at him again, very sweetly. Then it was back to business. "Now, the homework for tomorrow can be found on page 12 of your Worlds Alive's book." Nick barely heard the assignment. His heart was pounding, and he felt small, very small. He could feel the tops of his ears glowing red. A complete shutdown, an extra assignment, and probably a little black mark next to his name on the seating chart. Everything he had learned about this teacher was true. Don't mess around with the Lone Granger. All right, so that's the end of chapter 3. Let's go ahead and look at our questions. Question number 1 says, according to the text, means I have to go back and look in the text. What is the meaning of the phrase? A phrase is a group of words. Delaying question. So I'm going back into the text because that's what it said according to the text. And I'm looking for where does it talk about the delaying question. So right there on the top of page 14, I see delaying question. So I want to read that quick paragraph to see what's going on during this time. Nick was an expert at asking the delaying question. So this is what Nick does. He asks a delaying question, also known as the teacher stopper or the guaranteed time waster. At 3 minutes before the bell, in that split second between the end of today's classwork and the announcement of tomorrow's homework, Nick could launch a question guaranteed to sidetrack, get the teacher off track, the teacher long enough to delay or even wipe out a homework assignment. So that delaying question, his goal is to get the teacher to forget all about the homework she was getting ready to assign so that they can leave before they can get homework. So let's look at our answer choices. A guarantee helper. This isn't quite helping anyone other than the kids. And if I look back in the text, it said that it was a guaranteed time waster. His goal is to waste time so teacher cannot pass out that homework. B, question stopper. So here I'm looking, and again it says that it was a teacher stopper. The question is going to stop, prevent the teacher from assigning that homework. So it's a close choice, but that's not good enough. C, a guaranteed time waster. That was one of the other options that it says. It says that it was a delaying question, also known as the teacher stopper or the guaranteed time waster. And then D says teacher helper. So my best answer choice should be C, guaranteed time waster. Let's go ahead and look at number 2. How did Nick feel when he received the extra assignment from Mrs. Granger? So I'm going back in the book again, and I'm looking to see where exactly did Nick receive that extra assignment. So on the bottom of page 15 is where Nick and his teacher, Mrs. Granger, started having this conversation about, oh, you know what? That is an interesting question. Class, does everybody want to know the answer to that question? And everybody's nodding their head because they know that Nicholas can get that homework assignment pushed away. So they're kind of trying to play into that. But Mrs. Granger knew what was happening because right on the top of page 16, she smiled at him again after she had given him this extra homework assignment. Now she passes out and tells everyone what their homework is. Nicholas, during this whole time that she's talking and giving the homework assignment, it says that Nick could barely hear the assignment. His heart was pounding. He felt small, very small. This is something he was good at. And here he has a teacher who has met his match. She did not stop on the question. In turn, she gave him more homework and still gave everyone a homework assignment. So let's look at our answer choices. A, elated. Elated means he is overjoyed with happiness. He is definitely not overjoyed with happiness. He's kind of out of it. He can't believe really what's happening right now because this was supposed to stop them from getting homework, not give him extra homework. B says scared. So here he's not quite scared. He's not afraid of his teacher. Yes, she's giving him homework, but it's not a fearful type moment going on. C, jealous. He is definitely not jealous that he gets more homework than everyone else. And then D is mortified. Mortified shows that he just cannot believe what has happened to him. He is in a daze. Everything is out of the normal of what he was expecting to happen. So he is definitely mortified about what's going on. So you're going to make sure that you mark your answer choices, and you are now responsible for reading chapter 4 and answering the remainder of the questions.